Hello, Codzers. It's Nabberzunner. Just hopped off a call with hashtag TAC, WaterKH, and Preferred Whale, along with the rest of the CODS community. But we've been working on the Black Ops Cold War viral, revealed some fascinating information, and I want to jump right into it with a note that appeared on the Pawn Takes Pawn / Extraction Complete page. I think with the information that we're being given here, we can certainly start speculating about a clear direction that this upcoming zombie storyline is going. So without further ado, let's read that note. It's addressed to an M and signed Tatiana. It says, quote, "There is a developing situation at the Lubyanka. They found something in the archives, something from the war. I'm not sure about Collegium, but several of the deputy chairmen are recommending that the committee authorize a ground operation. I will try to find out what I can, but this is worrying. These are very serious men, but I've never seen looks on their faces like I have in current days." So let's talk a little bit about the contents of this. First of all, the Lubyanka is the KGB headquarters. So if that wasn't obvious, it makes sense. So we got some top secret information going down and being discussed at the Lubyanka. The committee is the Central Committee of the Communist Party. The Military Collegium of the Supreme Court of the Soviet Union was a court that handled a lot of military cases up until about 1934, at which point it was reassigned to handling counter-revolutionary activity and cases of unrest and treason in the USSR. This is something to keep in mind because I think it comes up later as a possibility for the direction that this story is going. The next bit of information was actually an audio recording, as many of you may have heard. I keep calling the cassette player a Walkman, but essentially it's that sort of model, again, pointing to the time period that we're in. So we'll go ahead and play that recording now.
I know you're scared, but I need you to be brave. Again, Tatiana has the package, but I'm worried about her. She hasn't been back to Lubyanka since she took it. Bad mistake. Her superiors are not stupid men. They will notice her absence. It is most unlike her. They will bring her in for interrogation. As soon as she hears the words, the KGB has irrefutable evidence that you have been actively engaged in anti-Soviet activities. She'll talk, but that won't stop them. Go to her house. Get the package. Whether she wants you to or not. I'm working with people in the West who can help us. Help you. I want you to know that whatever happens, your actions will save many lives.
Perhaps the most important bit of intel discovered yesterday was this map on screen now, which could be found behind Tatiana's note on Pawn Takes Pawn Extraction Complete. The map highlights the area of the Murasko meteorite craters, a site in Poland where several meteorite impacts occurred back in 1914. Get this, only 7 years after the famed Tunguska meteor, which, as we all know, has long been associated with the zombie storyline, in fact, as far back as Shi No Numa. So let's consider the implications of these messages. What World War II archives could suddenly cause so much concern at the KGB headquarters in the 1980s? I think in order to understand this, we should revisit the events of Black Ops 1 and compare what we're seeing today with what Treyarch did back then. In the terminal behind the interrogation chair in the Black Ops menu, we can access certain files, archives from Group 935, recorded by Dr. Maxis on his Datenbediensteter or data servant at Dariza. These files, we learn from the correspondence of the famed Manhattan Project scientist Dr. Robert J. Oppenheimer, were acquired by American operatives during the Black Ops 1 mission on the Soviet-controlled Rebirth Island. Based on what we know from the Black Ops 1 campaign intel and information gathered from the terminal, it would seem that the Russians managed to acquire the bulk of 935's research prior to the Dariza massacre in 1945, and the US has been doing their best to get as much of it from the USSR as possible ever since. This is a strong indicator that there was more in the data servant than the entries available to us in the Black Ops 1 terminal, and it's likely that some of these archives were lost or misplaced in the chaos following the defeat of the Nazis. Now, 40 years later, the KGB is just discovering them and uncovering long-forgotten threats. The US, meanwhile, has continued to keep an ear to the ground over all these years in hopes of acquiring more of this original research, and now the pieces are moving into place. This, I believe, firmly sets us up for what I like to call the Black Ops terminal narrative, referring to the part of the zombie storyline that took place between the events of Dariza and prior to the events of Moon. Treyarch's efforts this time around to return to the Black Ops 1 MO of using real or uncertain and unverifiable historical events as a basis for their story strongly supports the possibility that we will see the same in zombies. A good example of this from Black Ops 1 was the references to Die Glocke, which appear, as we all know, in Zombies, but also mentioned in the Project Nova campaign mission in the form of intel that discussed lost Nazi technology. Quote, analysis of the rumored Die Glocke device, heretofore known as the Bell, purported to be anything from an anti-gravity propulsion system to a time machine. Nothing as yet can be confirmed. However, a statement from Agency Case Officer Chase Retland details his interrogation of a low-level research assistant who claims he saw a, quote, mirror device that allowed the viewing of images from the past. The subject of the interrogation died of unknown causes shortly after providing his statement. Now, a lot of voices in the CODS community are suggesting that Cold War will take place after the events of Tag der Toten in Black Ops 4, but I don't believe that's necessary. Cold War gives Treyarch the opportunity to pick up the narrative from a whole new perspective, that of the Cold War factions, as more horrors are uncovered post-war, and as these experiments are revitalized. This would avoid the redundancy of a whole new story in which the cycle was supposed to have ended and has begun again because, well, the Dark Ether is leaking again, essentially invalidating all the efforts of Primus, Ultimus, and Victus. As you can probably tell, I'm pretty passionate about this. That said, what could this threat be? The most obvious is the possibility of a lost Group 935 zombie lab or reserve facility in the vicinity of these meteor impacts, while the alternative is a nuclear bomb. Better yet, we have in fact seen both in the recent Zombies teaser. I mentioned this would be a particular concern to the Collegium earlier, because of their role in counter-revolution. If opposition forces had acquired either of these weapons, the USSR would be in a bad situation. This, without question, calls for a ground operation, which the Soviets can only hope will confirm that the opposition has not already done so in the 40 years prior. If this package can get to Western powers before the committee takes action, it may still be possible for them to get to the site and confiscate the resources before the Russians can secure it. I believe this may be the motivation for Tatiana's actions, as well as the actions of the voices who actually recorded the tape, as well as those who now have the tape, note, and map in their possession. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Join us over in the COD Zombies forum, CallOfDutyZombies.com, or in the Discord for a lively chat on this topic. And you can meet me over there and tell me what you think of these things and whether I missed something. Anyways, thanks for listening. Naberzunner, out.